I think banking in general can be, at least opening a small business can be really intimidating.
Yeah.
It has never felt that way working with Bremer. Our business wouldn't exist without an SBA loan. Bremer swooped in, held us under their wing, and walked us through it. And we ended up getting everything we needed. Bremer sees us. I mean, like, really sees us.
They're our cheerleaders behind closed doors, and who knew it was going to be our bankers?
I know, right?
Want your boss to put some real action behind the rhetoric when they talk about making your workplace more inclusive? Find out how to hold their feet to the fire and demand diversity on the Diversity Dude podcast.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Diversity Dude podcast. I'm your host, Lambert Fisher, marriage and family therapist, award-winning author, and national speaker on the topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. And for those of you who are interested in even more positive and encouraging tips and strategies beyond what I share in podcasts like this, then feel free to check out my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, nationally recognized for the unique way in which it addresses the often difficult topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. Designed for more than just therapists, if you're a helping professional in any way, Diversity in Clinical Practice can help you meet the greatest variety of cultural needs possible for those whom you serve. And it's available in paper and audiobook versions for your convenience. And if you haven't heard it yet, I invite you to visit TED.com and check out my talk called What to Do When You Offend Someone, where I offer a positive and practical perspective on how to navigate unintentional offenses in daily life. To date, it's been viewed over 500,000 times. Check it out for yourself. And if you're encouraged by it as well, share it with a friend. And whether it be through my one-on-one relationship building efforts as a therapist or my informing and empowering efforts as an author and speaker, know that my personal mission is to do my part to improve the world one strengthened relationship at a time. So, today I want to share with you an encouraging perspective on the question of, is it offensive to offer help? I recently had the pleasure of providing a training for a group of mental health professionals seeking to ensure that the services they provided were as culturally considerate as reasonably possible. We explored efforts to increase cultural effectiveness and self-awareness, how to increase understanding of and empathy for people no matter their cultural background, as well as ways to reduce the likelihood of unintentional cultural offenses and strengthen cross-cultural relationships whenever possible. During this training, someone asked a great question, one which many have asked before, so much so that I thought it would be worth discussing on today's podcast. The question was simply this: Lambers, I work at an organization that provides mental health services in a community where we often find out after getting started that there was a need for a language interpreter. However, when I considered helping new clients from certain backgrounds automatically by scheduling interpreters at the very beginning, my idea was shut down for being culturally offensive. But all I was trying to do was help. Is trying to help offensive? Now, I thought this was a great question, primarily because it was coming from a genuine desire to help, as well as a genuine openness and desire to understand. In response, I shared with them the following considerations. Consideration number one: offering support consistently helps reduce perceived individual offense. The observation of a consistent need and a desire to get ahead of that trend and be prepared to preemptively meet a common need is not inherently a bad thing. It's great to want to help. It's great planning, in fact. The question, though, is how do you determine when to offer this kind of help? If you only help some people and not others, then you run the risk of assuming who has a need and who doesn't. More specifically, you run the risk of someone perceiving your helpful gesture as a sign of your assumption of their lack of ability in one area or another, putting you in a situation where you'll need to defend why you thought they had the need in the first place before asking or getting to know them. One remedy to this dilemma is to offer support consistently. Maybe you can incorporate in your initial processes a brief question, asking everyone first and initiating that service, such as, would you like to have an interpreter during our first session? Some even go so far as to have that question written in different languages on their documentation before even they have it to speak, or speaking that in different languages on a voicemail system. And then be prepared to contract with an organization that provides this service as a service to your clients. In this way, those who don't need the service will simply see this as one of the many questions that you ask and the services that you provide that they can respectfully decline and forget about, while those who could benefit from that service can be spared the discomfort of asking and simply accept your generous offer. Again, making this a general practice allows you to answer the question of perceived offense: why do you think I would need that service? With a positive and empathetic response such as, we ask that question of everyone. just in case. Feel free to partake or ignore it if you don't need it. This makes it a gift they can choose to accept rather than a negative assumption they might feel they have to be compelled to reject. Then there's consideration number two. Remember that offense is often a reminder of hurts that precede you. Some of you might still be asking, but how can someone be offended by an offer to help? Well, as I explored in my TEDx talk, things that people find offensive are not based on an absolute sense of right or wrong, but rather things that are considered offensive are often things that remind people of past hurts and make them fear that future harm is on the way. In this case, it's possible for that person you're seeking to support that they might have a history of professionals saying they're helping because of value and respect for their culture, but then filling their support efforts with assumptions of limited abilities and competence. Sometimes these professionals even declined other potential helpful resources on their behalf out of negative assumptions about their abilities or interests. And then you come in with your reasonable intentions and genuine desire to help. But when you automatically scheduled an interpreter, assuming they needed it, it reminded them of the people who made assumptions in the past and used those assumptions to limit their options, all in the name of helping. As a result, they get offended because your actions looked similar and made them feel the need to choose between repeated hurts and unhelpful limitations or expressing their outrage and declining your offer because they aren't sure of what baggage comes with it. Unfortunately, sometimes people who could benefit from assistance will decline that assistance out of a desire to avoid perpetuating the unearned low perception of their abilities. And finally, consideration number three, do your best to avoid saviorism. No matter how genuine you may feel your efforts may be, I encourage you to do periodic self exploration to ensure that you're not falling into the saviorism trap. Saviorism refers to a harmful attitude where people assume they have an expertise and responsibility to save or help those in marginalized communities. It often conveys the message that not only are they better than you, but they're also better because they're willing to help those in a lesser position than they are. Interestingly, this doesn't even always have to be done in an arrogant or patronizing manner to count as saviorism and still have a similar impact. Similarly, it doesn't even need to be how you actually feel in order for it to be perceived to be what's motivating your efforts. Again, not based solely on your behavior, but possibly based on the motivations and behaviors of individuals who preceded you. But if you can't change what or who came before you, then what can you do about this? Well, you can get ahead of it and make clear your motivations, tipping the scales of doubt and uncertainty in your favor. For example, in addition to the above mentioned gentle offer and the reassurance that you give the same offer to everyone just in case, you can also be prepared to reassure that you're not offering from a top down perspective. It might sound something like, while I personally don't know multiple languages and have significant respect for those who do, I like to offer and to collaborate with interpreters whenever needed to ensure that language barriers don't get in the way of our ability to work together effectively. You see, expressing this takes you off of any perceived high pedestal by acknowledging that knowing multiple languages is not the minimum standard. The implication is that you are offering a service that you would respectfully hope existed if you were in their shoes, all the while allowing them the opportunity to decline if desired. And the best gift you can give at the end is positive patience, whether interpreters are used or not. In this way, you confirm in every conversation that any work or patience necessary for consistent understanding is worth it because they are worth it to you. This is in contrast to showing consistent frustration with the use of interpreters or their choice to decline if you perceive that they need one. One of the best things you can do is respect someone else's perception of their abilities. Help when you can and confirm your respectful perception of their abilities even before they have the chance to confirm it. With all this in mind, my hope for you is that you would feel more confident in the genuineness behind your genuine desires to help others. If your desire in self exploration is effective, then your motivations can be based on a healthy view of others rather than a lesser view, making sure you are humbling yourself and identifying traits in everyone worth magnifying. Again, the goal is not to consider yourself more highly than you ought or consider others more highly than you, but to develop and maintain a healthy and balanced view of everyone, yourself included, with varying strengths and traits, and be open to providing help as needed based on what you would reasonably have to offer, as well as what they let you know they need. In this way, while offering help isn't automatically offensive, we can reduce the likelihood that it reminds people of hurtful offers in their past, one potential need at a time. And with that, I'll say thanks again for listening to today's Diversity Do podcast. If you have any pressing diversity-related questions that you'd like me to address on an upcoming podcast, or if your organization is in need of a shame-free and empowering guest speaker or training on this often sensitive topic, then feel free to reach out to me directly at www.diversitymadesimple.com. And if you know of anyone else who can benefit from a positive and encouraging perspective on this often difficult topic, then feel free to send them a link to this podcast so they can be encouraged as well, or share with them my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, available at Amazon.com. And don't forget to visit TED.com and check out my talk called What to Do When You Offend Someone. I hope it inspires you and that you share it with someone else so that they can be inspired as well. And as usual, I look forward to addressing as many topics as possible in future podcasts to help you improve as many relationships as possible at home, at work, and in your community. And as always, remember this: you don't need to know everything about everyone in order to have a positive impact on someone. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a great day.
Tune in each week and find out how to demand and implement diversity at your job. To hear more, check out previous Diversity Dude shows on ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African-American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast-quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
What's up, everyone? It's Shaletta. I'm here getting a phone for one of my newly minted teenagers with Xfinity Mobile. They've got great options, affordable plans, and solid coverage that works for our whole family. With Xfinity Mobile, my daughter can stay connected with me wherever she goes. And did you know when you sign up, you can get an extra phone line free for a full year? Switch to Xfinity Mobile today for more savings, more smiles, and more ways to stay connected.